Round 3 of the most exciting chess tournament every 2 years around, the candidates. Who is going to face Magnus Carlsen? Well, welcome and hello. I'm going to pick my game of the day from round 3, and we'll have a look at highlights of every game as well. So I'll show you little snippets from what's happened, but the big question, and I do give the results away behind me, maybe I shouldn't do, but I'm sure most of you know them already, is could Ding recover from his 2 losses? Massive game, 2 of the pre-tournament favourites, Ding and Caruana. And, well, as we can see, Ding won a fantastically exciting game in the end. Now, let me move my head and you can see the results. There you go. Every other game, a draw. But I think this really opens up the tournament because for Ding to have a chance, he really needs to beat his main rival, and he did that. So this was a really fascinating game. Ding with the white pieces is a d4 player, came out with d4. And after d5, c4, we had the Slav, and this is an opening that Fabiano really rarely plays. He doesn't play this often at all, so he's obviously got a set opening repertoire for this tournament, which he's been preparing for with his team for a long time. Everyone's saving up their opening secrets for this tournament because it's the way to win the World Championships. So knight to f3 played, and now after knight to c3 we had this capture on c4, this being a line that's very popular. The other options here include e6, but taking on c4 has been played by Morozevich, and it has quite a solid reputation, but Caruana comes out punching today, as we're going to see. White sticks to the main line with a4, stopping b5, bishop to f5, developing the bishop to a good square and stopping white from building a centre with e4, and now knight to e5. White aims to win that pawn back on c4. This is all the main line. And now, quite an intriguing move, e6. And I was quite happy to see this. It's an old line. It's gone out of fashion quite a bit. And Fabiano clearly had some interesting ideas in the main line here. The idea of this is, well, okay, as we're going to see, to quickly develop the pieces, but to try and control the central squares in a lot of ways. Now, the critical line and the modern line is what occurred here. White can take this one back, but black is thought to be quite comfortable after a number of moves. Even c5 here, trying to pressurize this one, has been played. But bishop b4 is more solid, a nice square. Can't be kicked away, controlling e4 and d5 very well. But f3 is key because this means white is coming in the center, and now bishop b4 anyway, and here knight takes c4, so we get a similar thing to what I just mentioned. The old main line in this position used to be e4, and I'd be very excited to see what Caruana had here. And this was supposed to be a little bit better for white and popular probably 30 years ago. Black now mainline wise takes on e4, sacrifices a piece to get pressure against c3 and ideas of queen h4. So bishop d2 played, and this move now at least defends this. And this is not played in the game, but this is the main line. And after queen takes d4, you get this very interesting position. And again, this is quite complex, but things calm down around here, where black has 3 pawns for the piece. And the white king is a bit weak, but the piece is considered to be a little bit better here. So this is because you're going to win this pawn back on c4. And this is a very interesting position. So I'd love to have seen this in the game, but Fabiano's idea was, after knight takes c4, was to castle. And now the main line here, because e4 will run into similar ideas, is now king to f2, which might look very strange, but the point is, if e4 occurs, let's say after knight bd7, e4, any of these sacrifices on e4 are not working because you're not in a pin, so you can take the knight on e4, and black doesn't have enough compensation. So this is a very mainline position, but now Fabiano comes out with his extremely interesting and quite shocking novelty pawn to e5. It actually makes a lot of sense, this move, because White's has moved his king here. If White is given time to advance with something like e4, then it wouldn't be working very well. But in this position, you know, after the move e5, Black is just trying to open things up as quickly as possible. And it's really a very interesting novelty. Fabiano incredibly well prepared for this, this tournament in general. If pawn takes, then I guess some ideas here could be to try and put pressure on this diagonal with some bishop check, or even, you know, just simply putting the knight in the center. Or, you know, this could go to d7. But I kind of like this move, because now you have ideas of this cheeky check here, which would actually win the knight on c4. And you can kind of see there's a lot of ideas here for Black. So knight takes e5, so after e5 looks natural. And now we see the idea, bishop c2. Brilliant idea. Trying to, well, force this move when you take on d4 and win the piece back with a very good game. So White has to displace his queen to d2, and now c5. And this is all Fabiano's preparation. d5, bishop b3. So White is a pawn up. And the whole idea of this is Fabiano's playing extremely aggressively, taking risks with Black, trying to win with Black, just like Bobby Fischer would do. Bobby Fischer would be proud. Sometimes these things backfire. And this is where I'm very impressed with Ding. I mean, Ding is on 0 out of 2. It's time to try and beat him. And he could just be really demoralised here and fall apart against such a dangerous idea from Fabiano. I mean, a lot of players would just freak out here, but he keeps his cool, and he does some, you know, he keeps his cool very, very well here, and he handles a lot of this pressure and tactics his way through it, calculates his way through it. It's a very impressive play. e4 gaining a good center, rook e8, and there's a lot of pressure against this. Queen to f4, defending that knight, and now c4. Giving up a second pawn to activate. Very brave play. Knight takes c4, knight bd7. And this must be the kind of position that Fabiano had in his prep. Figuring the white king's a bit weak. There may be some sacrificial ideas. And Black's pieces are coming in very quickly. So, you know, I'd be scared here as White. White sensibly develops. And now knight to f8. The knight comes to annoy the queen. And the queen is in some danger. Bishop d4. Knight g6, queen f5. The queen forced offside. But let's remember, these two pawns up is what White has, but White's king is very badly placed. Bishop takes c4, bishop takes c4, queen c7, bishop e2, bishop c5. Taking over the dark squares, therefore attacking the king. And after king to f1, we now reach what I would consider the critical moment of this game. Black is 2 pawns down, but he has fully developed all of his pieces. The white king is in a horrible square. The white rook on h1 is not playing, so you're kind of 5 points down here. Black's knights have potential to jump in or to sacrifice themselves. And in this position, I think Fabiano plays maybe the losing move. He plays h6. You just don't have time to play a move like this when you're 2 pawns down. I mean, I don't understand this move. What is Fabiano trying to do? You need to play with urgency when you've sacrificed. I mean, you've got to keep going with the most active moves. You need to look at captures, look at checks, but if those don't work, create threats. Bring in your reinforcements. This doesn't do any of those moves. It doesn't create a threat. It doesn't bring in a piece to a more dangerous square. I mean, I don't want to be too critical, but because he's played an amazing idea, and it's kind of disappointing to see this novelty go to waste. But he could have played here, rook to e5, and the queen only has 1 square, and now the queen is very badly placed. And now a move such as queen to b4, this is much more to the point. He's creating threats. He's annoying White where White's weakest. White's pieces are discombobulated, and with another rook potentially coming in, let's say rook b1, rook c8, threatening to take on c3, Black has a lot of pressure here. There are ideas of these knights coming in, so knight to f4 at the right moment is incredibly strong. Even rook to h5, and this would have given, you know, Fabiano Who knows? He could have been on 2.5 out of 3, and that would have been on his way to qualifying. So in the game, h6 is played, and this now gives white enough time to consolidate. White plays a very good maneuver. He places his rook on d2. And this now covers everything. He covers b2. And he's starting to get his defense together. Fabiano's given white enough time to defend. Queen e3, trying to be active. Rook c2. Black defends, black attacks, but black is up against great defense from Ding. And now queen h3, because the queen now comes back to cover some more squares. Queen g3, brilliant defense here. b4, knight d1. White very solid because he's got this rook to a good square. And Fabiano now grabs one pawn. And now after queen takes a4, that's actually, sorry, my phone, I should have turned it off, but I have my car in the garage and they just quoted me £600 to get my airbag fixed. And that was after paying about £800 because someone stole a part of my car. And the car's not even worth that much money. It's driving me crazy, as well as all the other problems in the world. It's only a money problem, but it's not a fun problem. Anyway, queen d7 now played. And, okay, black is only one pawn down, but these pawns are very strong. And after g3, white is coordinating. The king will come here, the knight will come to e3, the rook comes in, and then the pawns just come forwards. So the check comes, the best chance to stop that idea, a5, but now knight f2 and king g2. Just very good play from Ding, neutralizing all of this play. And now f4 after queen d7. f4 attacks the knight on h5. It forces Fabiano to play an unsound sacrifice, because if you come back here, just e5. And it's easy to see here that white is dominating. The king comes up. This a pawn is no real danger. These pawns will win. And this sacrifice is just unsound. And we'll have a look at a couple more moves. Again, you know, a lot of us would still lose this position, but someone as good as Ding, he finds all the right moves. He plays as actively as he can. This is it. Even when you're facing a sacrifice, you should aim to play actively. He threatens checkmate. f6, bishop b5. The bishop will sit very comfortably on c6. b3, stopping these pawns from advancing. And really, this position is now just an extra piece for white. Black is not active enough. Black has no activity. And, you know, the game goes on at this level to be lost very easily. Queen e3, threatening this and the knight. Black can't do anything. He tries to move his knight around, but it simply gets kicked around. And white just plays in a very simple manner. Fabiano could have resigned here, but he plays on. He has survived some dodgy positions in his time. He tries to create as much mischief as possible, but Ding is up to the challenge. I mean, again, I would be scared here as white, but look, he's a piece and 3 pawns up, so we don't need to look at any more. I will show the end of the game without commentary, just so you know what happened. And, well, around here, it's clear to see that the game is dead. So, brilliant comeback from Ding there. He really needed that win. You know, to get back in the tournament. And that's really twisted the tournament around on its head. Now, we'll have a quick look at moments from the other games. Now, this is the game Giri versus MVL, and this was basically a novelty was played on move 15, knight d7. And one thing that I think MVL might suffer from is his openings as black. He played the Grunfeld, and, you know, white got a very slightly better position at some point here, but the game ended a draw. Not too much to report there. MVL held on with black. Grischuk's game was quite interesting, but the game, the idea here that really allowed Wang Hao, who's playing very well here, to hold the position was this knight e4 move. Grischuk has pushed on to attack the knight, and had the knight retreated or moved somewhere like h5, then bishop to b1 to a2 would leave white winning a pawn and probably winning the game. You know, there's no way black will be able to hold on to this pawn on d5 now that white is attacking it in 3 ways. And this knight e4 is a lovely tactic because it aims to simplify the position. And after bishop takes, and the point of this is, if pawn takes, you're threatening the bishop, you're threatening e3, you get into a drawn rook ending. And after bishop takes, pawn takes, rook e1, the game simplifies and they basically get into a draw. Now, probably one of the more interesting games was the game between Aleksenko and Nepo. And this was very fascinating. And, Nepo really came out with a French defense, one of my favorite openings, trying to win. But he actually got himself in some trouble. And we're going to jump to the position after Nepo plays g6. And I think this shows that Aleksenko he played very imaginatively up to this point. But I think he had a little bit too much faith in Nepo. And he's got to just be a little bit braver. Even though the game ended in a draw, he misses a golden opportunity here. He played h5, but after pawn takes h5, black manages the castle and the game ends in a draw. But he misses a brilliant chance. He could have gone bishop takes g6. The point being, if black takes on g6, white is winning with queen takes e6, even though white's a rook down, queen e7, and now queen c6 check, threatening the rook, so king f7 is forced. And now the very clever move, h5. Threatening queen takes g6 checkmate, but most importantly, after the forced move g takes h5, opening up the g file. And now we do the rook swinger, rook e3. And with the rook coming here and the rook coming here and the queen coming over, black is completely lost. So this was a golden opportunity for Aleksenko had he played bishop takes g6. White, I think, would have been faced with the move castles. And now rook to e3. Again, the rook swinger, and this time the other way. King b7, for example, rook c3, queen e7, bishop d3. And I think white has great winning chances here. Yes, white's the exchange down, but this bishop is completely useless. So really, black is a piece down. This pawn could be lost later on, and the rook will slide into c5. For example, rook c8, rook c5. And I think Nepo would have lost this game. So, I can understand Aleksenko, needs to just be a little bit braver. But it's his first time really competing at this level. Well, thank you very much. That concludes my roundup of round 3. And the pairings tomorrow, let's have a little look. We have Caruana with white against Nepo. That's going to be Nepo's, I think, first major challenge, really, the black pieces. Wang Hao against Aleksenko. Wang Hao will be going for the win. MVL versus Grischuk and Ding versus Giri. Can Ding get his second win on the row? So, I'd love you to leave your comments below. Please like and do subscribe to this channel. It does help. And I'll be back with more very soon. Thank you for now. Goodbye.